Alright, let's get this started. Alright. I don't remember if we've gone over your Rein before. Um, but one really important skill for Rein is just knowing where your healers can see. So first of all, your Ana's dead, so you only have Zen healing. So generally speaking, yeah. So generally speaking, um, you shouldn't be playing aggressive in general if you're down your Ana, unless you like that aggressive play will like you're doing it with your team and it'll get like return kills. So like say like they spend a lot of resources killing your Ana and then you win it, you go in after that and you get kill like one or two more of them and then you don't die, right? That's like the time to go aggressive, right? But in this case, they didn't actually burn a lot to kill your Ana. Your Ana just kind of died. Um, and the only cooldown they really burned is like a hook, really, right? So you going really aggressive not only is like unlikely to result in a lot because you're hitting a Roadhog and not like the backline, but also, right, your team is down on healing and you're about to run around a corner, which makes this even worse, right? So if you look what your supports can see, right, this is what your supports can see. This is like they don't see you, right? So you're not getting any help here. You're not playing with your team, and you're also like running in at like kind of a bad time. So you're not really reading the flow of the fight. We talked about this a lot with your diva, right? Where you sometimes just commit when your team isn't walking in, right? And this is kind of the same deal. So as main tank, you represent more of the team than when you're an off tank, right? But at the same time, like your team is not in any position to help you, right? And you can just see this if you look third person, right? No one is even trying to help you, right? And you're committing hard on a target that you can't even kill, right? If this was a McCree who had no flashbang, this would be a different story, right? Because you could actually kill this guy potentially, right? And you put on a lot of pressure. But this is our Roadhog. There's actually no world in which you kill this guy. So all you do is just kill yourself, basically. And remember, like, yes, you're on a fed, right? But that doesn't give you an excuse to feed either. On top of that, because like the way you carry games is by consistently having impact, and you have impact by not dying. Um, there are times when you have to take risks to make plays, right? But generally speaking, if you don't die, good things will happen.
This is not over.
Objective
All right,
lost.
so we've talked about this a lot
Stop the payload.
as a team, but not like for individual stuff. But high ground is the most important part of the map in most cases, right? So if you have the ability to walk to high ground, you need to know how to get there. So like not knowing that staircase on Hanamura, like for example, is like a big problem, and not knowing where the staircase is on this map is also equally a big problem. So like, I want you to pause the video here when you watch this, and just like try to think about all the ways you can get to high ground from on this point, right? So pause it, and then I'll just talk about it now. So the ways to get to high ground, there's a staircase here. You can access the staircase because it's both sides from this side, right? So from this part of the map, or right when you come out of spawn, even, right? You just go straight up to high ground, right? You can access it if you're too far forward and you decide you don't want to go back and go this way, right? And there's also a staircase over here. So if you're coming out of, if you get late spawned, you come out, and there's a staircase right here, right? That'll take you to high ground. And there's also a staircase over here. That'll take you to high ground. This is the most direct route in a lot of cases. So this staircase is really, really important, right? So if you're here and you've already realized like, oh, I should go high ground, right? That means that you should just walk in through here, or in this general area, come out on the staircase and get here as fast as you can, right? Um, but it's really important that your team like clears high ground because if this hog's being dumb, he didn't need to drop at all. But if this hog just sat here, you guys can't walk forward anymore because he's always threatening a hook from behind you, right? And just by walking up there with your shield, you force this hog to like run away because he doesn't do enough to like break your shield solo, right? Oh, thanks for the follow, Israel. But yeah, uh, this is something you would need to be really mindful of, but just like play high ground, right? Or clear the high ground first, then you get to do what you want, right? But if you don't clear it, you don't get to play the game. But this guy clears it for you, right? But now they're Ryan's taking high ground. Do you see that? So Ryan's not super scary by himself on the high ground because like he doesn't do much with it. But it does. This is preventing your team from playing it if someone on your team wanted to use it. And if you had Shadow, this would be very concerning.
Just a scratch. You'll be fine.
Yeah. So pathing wise, we're having issues. And as a result of all the stuff on high ground, like you don't feel comfortable just like walking down over here and going to cart, right? You can't feel comfortable doing this because these people are here, right? This is why you're spending so much time hesitating and looking around. It's because again, you didn't clear this in advance, right? You didn't come up here early and clear this, and then like clear it and then drop, or clear and then walk out here and then get to the where you actually want to go, right? This is where you actually want to go, right? But you can't get here because this high ground is occupied. Right, and you're worried about this hook. This hog, as soon as you drop it, went right back up, right? Right, the Rein inted. Yeah, and you see this whole time, right? We talked a lot about angles and concaves, right? What do we see here? Angle. There was a guy here earlier. Is it this guy? This is yeah. Okay, that's Echo. Echo is here, right? Hog over here, right? We're just sitting in the middle of a big concave, and we have no idea what to do, right? And this because and whenever this happens, it's the main tank, right? So yes, you should clear the high ground earlier and just prevented this from being a problem, right? This whole time, this has been a preventable problem from the high ground, right? But if it happened, it's too late, right? You as a main tank just need to pick one side and run at it, right? So you can decide like, hey, let's go high ground when you realize the high ground's a problem, right? And everyone just comes back, comes up through here, clears the high ground, and then you drop in test card. And if you did this early enough, the card would maybe be like right here, right? And that's totally fine. Alternatively, you can take the team and be like, hey, especially if it's speed, just be like, hey, we need to like push the left side or something, right? So you just go over here, you clear this angle, you force them out, right? You flush them out of this room, and now you have two angles to deal with, and your team has enough angle control that like it's more like a line than a concave now, right? But you need to pick a side of the concave, right, not the middle, and push it, right? You can't allow the situation to continue like this, or eventually your team will just run out of stuff, right? And people are already getting picked left and right now, so yeah. So you see how you never fully commit to running out one side or another, and by the time you actually get anywhere, and like you're running out of like shield and HP, and your team's dying around you, and then when you do decide to go somewhere, you go to cart, right? You don't pick a side to run at, right? You don't block this door, you don't shove really anywhere, you don't shove the hog, you don't shove the door. You just kind of went to cart, right? You went to the middle of the concave as opposed to picking the side, right? Yeah. Alright, you got to touch. This is on you. And you gotta walk forward. Oh, you're being so indecisive. Now you can't walk forward. Yeah. Hey, Justin. Oh, this is an awkward retreat. Your whole team's gonna die behind you. Alright, so first, if the team's about to cap, right, somebody's got to take the risk to touch, right? And most of the time that's going to be you, right? If someone has to be a sacrificial piece, right, that has to be you because you're one of the hardest, like you're one of the least likely to die in your team, and in most cases, like unless you have a tracer or someone with like very high mobility and high survivability, no one can realistically touch without like dying, right? So you need to be walking forward like as much as you can right now, and then pinning if you absolutely have to touch. But obviously you prefer not to do that. But especially when their attention's diverted like this is like damage you can walk in for free, or this is space you can walk in for free while taking minimal damage because they're not looking at you, right? But you're just not taking advantage of this. And then when you do decide to back up, you need to back up in a way your team can follow up, right? So if you decide you want to retreat, you're giving up the point. That's totally okay as well, right? If you want to give up and retreat, right, you need to like tell the team to start backing up and walk this way in the direction of your team so your team can back out together, right? In an organized fashion, right? But you walk this way, get hooked, it's kind of rough. Your team's trying to help you behind you, right? And as soon as you get to a position where you feel kind of safe, right? Instead of backing towards your team and trying to do a fighting retreat with your team, you just like, yeah, not my problem. And you leave. And these poor guys trapped in a corner, just watch their main tank bail on them. Yeah, and now you're not backing up, right? So your team just died. All three of those guys just died in the corner. You saw that happen, right? You even see your Ana dying right now. I mean, she just died, but you saw that happening, right? And you're still not backing up, right? Your team just died. They're going to be very late, and you cannot get staggered right now. Again, like you win by staying alive in a lot of cases, right? You'll like learn to get value and like make better plays, but you can't do that if you spend too much time dead, right? So right now, right? Your team just died, right? If you die, you're just adding to the problem. Yeah, that's on you. You didn't need to be here, right? Your team is dying. and you stood here, right? You just stayed here and said group up with me, even though you left your team behind, right? You've got to back up way earlier and way further, right? You could be back here or even back here while waiting for your team to regroup, and just as long as you can like peek occasionally, get vision of what they're doing, you'll feel okay, right? So they don't get a free setup. But you just played way too close. You ran out of shield, you ran out of HP, and then you died.
Enemy turret ahead.
No fair! Activating self-destruct sequence.
I suck, bro. That hog. Yeah, what a hook, right? Wow, I actually thought he died there. Guess not. We just hit her. Oh, I guess you didn't know her health, did you? Did you know her health? No, whatever. Yeah, so this is kind of minor. Um, yeah, I didn't know you could make that jump either, Justin. Yeah, so just a quick thing, right? So if you look at how you died, right? Where are you standing? Right? Enemy, enemy, enemy. You die here because you walk into a concave and you push like directly into it, as opposed to like, for example, like pushing out here, right? If you push out here, it's a lot easier to back out, right? Because you push into their concave and then turn, right? You're exposing your back to the enemy team. So this is very dangerous, right? So if you have the option to not do this, you want to do it. You want to not do it. Right. This pin is super like just like pushing really aggressively like this. It's just super risky, right? And then it turns out when you get pinned, your back was turned, you have no time to react, and you burn charge, so you couldn't like counter pin. And to make matters worse, the guy you killed got res, right? The guy your team killed got res. Yeah. These last couple fights have not really been your fault. Sorry, I guess that fight in particular wasn't really your fault. Like, that was kind of rough, but like, it's not that bad. But like, you sort of like you dug yourself into this hole to begin with, where like you lost a lot of fights early on, and they're mostly on you, or mostly can be things that you could have prevented, right? Even if your team's like making mistakes. Yeah, that was probably too aggressive. You don't always have to kill people you shatter. Shattering can just be enough to buy time sometimes. And then if you don't get a kill off that shatter, that's fine. It's just that like if you pin in there, your goal needs to be living, not swinging, right? So you spent a while swinging after that, and then you got purpled, and you didn't try to like really stay alive until like this point, and then by then it was too late, right? Like you keep chasing out here, you chase out here instead of like hitting your shatter, missing the pin, stopping here, and holding shield and backing up, right? You just need to buy time to live because your spawn's this close, right? And there's a problem in their backline they need to solve, right? So you just need to stay alive, and you can't just like give yourself up while this is happening. Because this Rein is going to die, you just need to live, right? Again, living trumps a lot of things. Yeah, and see their Rein dies. If you just stayed alive a little bit longer and didn't like expose yourself that much, right? You would have been chilling. The cap now, this is again probably on you. Yeah, that's on you.
Score 0-3. Switching sides. Initiating.
Yeah, so to recap,
Ready
okay, you're in
for
segment
battle.
now. Was that actually what you wanted me to VOD review? That'd be awkward if you didn't actually want Rein review. um, okay, you didn't really say anything about that. All right. So for your Rein, to recap, you need to understand that what you where you stand is what is clear for your team, right? So you need to identify the most important part of the map. That is usually going to be high ground, but not always. Um, and you just need to walk at it until it's clear, right? And once it's clear, you get to play the game. But you don't get to play the game until it's clear, because if they use if the enemy team uses that spot and your team isn't able to clear it, right? In a lot of cases, if only one person on your team is thinking about it, right? Generally speaking, pushing to a spot is harder than holding it. So if they have like one DPS holding a spot and your one DPS tries to challenge it, right? Generally speaking, your one DPS is at a disadvantage, right? And you can just make that not true by walking at them with the Rein shield, right? Um, but if the enemy team is holding a spot and you can't and your team can't take it over, you probably just lose if the spot's important enough, right? As we talked about with like um as we talked about with this part of the map, right? This room doesn't really do much, right? It's kind of a neat flank, right? But like it's not really hard for you to control that. But this is a big problem, right? They put a hog up here, and this hog caused all sorts of issues, right? So it's really important that you just walk up these stairs early, walk up one of the stairs, try to get your team skill with you, but you don't even have to do that, right? Clear the high ground, right? Once you've cleared it, then you get to play the game, right? But you don't get to play the game until you clear it. All right, let's watch your Sigma. Sigma is even more about that. So Sigma doesn't do anything on main that compared to Rein, right? Rein is just objectively better in that regard. But what Sigma is really good at is he's really good at beating up heroes 1v1 at mid range, right? So if there's a hog up here, right? Right. So if there's a hog up here, right? Or a McCree or whatever, right? Most characters feel very scared like walking into the hog and pushing him off, right? But at Sigma, you just walk up, put a shield, and you shoot him, right? And the hog has to leave. He just bleeds all charge otherwise, right? So he just has to leave, especially if you block his hook, right? And then once you do that, you won the flank just by that, just alone, right? And Sigma, like first of all, is very strong on the flanks, right? On the off angles and the high grounds. And second of all, he's extremely good at challenging for them, right? He's probably the best character in the game for that. That's his strongest niche, and you need to abuse that. So, if you didn't do that in Ryan, I really want to see you do that now in Sigma.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming.
Hoi.
Defend objective A.
Okay, the Ryan's a feeder. While this is going on, I want you to shield this in advance, right? Just so when he pins, right, and you walk in to shoot him, right, as soon as he does, if he doesn't die to that first shot, put a shield, block any follow up, and then go back to shooting him. But that's kind of a micro thing. But like that shield needs to be a lot earlier. All right, so you see that hog up there? That's your job, right? If you go this way now, I'm gonna be very triggered. Your job is like see this hog, be like hog, and then go up this way, beat him up, force him to drop, right? And now you've won the angle control, right? Just by walking there, right? Because you're Sigma, and Sigma just beats everybody on the flanks. Okay, so it looks like your D.Va's on it, but like this is a big problem. This is not something you should be doing. This is your job, right? Sort of wedge yourself in a very awkward position. I'm not really sure what you're doing here. Again, as Sig, you just kind of want to play long angles, right? As long as they're in range. So instead of walking into here and cutting off all help from your team, same as Ryan, right? You just wedge it, like as Ryan, you walked around the statue, we didn't have to, right? As Sigma, instead of like standing here where you can just shield this, play cover, right? You can even swing out to here if you need to, right? And play your shield and get help from your team. You like kind of walk out here and you're forcing this Moira to peek a hog in order to help you, right? But Moira doesn't want to do this, right? She doesn't want to do this, but you're making her, right? Yeah, just pick a side, right, and just play it, right? And if they don't contest you, or that like the pressure's relatively low from the enemy team on that side, you can go deeper, right? You can go wide here as well, right? But like, don't go like I don't know. This is just like LSing your team when you don't have to, right? Like you're not getting any healing right now, and it's not your healer's fault. Alright, now you're getting healing, because you walked back into LOS, right? So why didn't you just stay here to begin with, right? That's the question I have to ask. Alright, now your team's getting pressured. But... Alright, so again, do you see how you're spending all this time trading with tanks? In fact, the entire last fight, you spent the entire fight shooting at the hog as well, right? You're spending all this time trading with tanks, and it's getting you ult, but your entire, like, if you look at the kill feed, right? If you just watch the kill feed, you look at nothing except the kill feed. How does people, where do people on your team die? Alright, well, who kills people on your team, right? Okay, can we stop getting this blurry effect? Alright, Torb. 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 Alright. Torb. Alright. Where was the Torb the entire time, right? Big commentary. Yeah. This is where the Torb was, right? The whole time he was on this side of the map, and you're just trading with the hog, right? Do you see this? This is the issue, right? You're not identifying what's actually dangerous and controlling it. This hog just, sorry, this guy just kept spamming this, and you kept playing as if you're a Reinhardt. Like this is Reinhardt. Like I mean, this isn't Reinhardt positioning either, but like this idea of challenging the tanks, right, is not something you want to do. Um, exclamation mark Torb. Like you don't really want to fight tanks as Sig. You do it when you have to, right? But for the most part, you want to just like push squishies out of the angles they want to hold, and then take their angle and use it for yourself, right? So if you see the tanks leaning on this side, maybe like try to like shield off the hog hook, and then as soon as you deal with the hog, right, just swing out this way, push these guys out of position, go wide, right, and now you have their spot, and you're take away their map control from them, right? Especially when you're running double off tank, you just can't match them tank for tank. Ryan will just out muscle you in most situations. Yeah, so this is all whatever at this point. Ryan's feeding again. Nice. Take it. Careful. Oh, are you gonna get pinned? Yep. He wants it. That Ryan's a freak. But you see like how difficult it is? Like the Ryan went all the way to here and held up shield and walked all the way back to here. This is what Ryan is good at, right? Just direction damage, like a lot of damage from one direction. That's what he can handle. What he can't handle are angles, right? Because his shield can only face one way, right? And he's a relatively immobile hero. So what you need to do, like, so in this case, there's obviously not a lot you can do, which is why like holding choke is actually surprisingly good in a lot of situations because it's like a single choke with a random flank. But when you're in a situation where there's multiple paths, you cannot put yourself in a situation where you can only fight the tanks, right? Because that's what they're good at. That you want to fight the squishies. Unlucky. This is not the Sigma ult. This is not the Sigma ult. Your team said, right? You want to start the fight with Sigma ult. You don't want to end the fight with Sigma ult in most cases, right? You can do it if the fight's still winnable and your team's like, say like it's a 4v4 or something, and you just use it to clean up the fight. That's totally okay, right? But it's a very strong tempo ult, and you want to use it to start fights when your team is ready to follow up, when they have cooldowns, when they have HP. Right now, you have your D.Va's out of mech, and you lost both your supports, and you saw this happen directly in front of you, right? You saw this happen, so there's no excuse for this. Now your team's like getting baited into wasting ults. You guys are gonna get no kills off this. And that's 2 ults down the drain for no value. And they're still winning. Alright. See how that Rein died, by the way? Why did that Rein die? I mean, he was stupid, right? That's step one. But why is his shield not effective there? Why were you able to shoot him despite the fact he had a full shield, right? This guy is behind him, so he turns his shield, and then he dies. It's that simple sometimes. What is that Mercy doing? Alright, so Ryan baited his team. Big dubs. Oh, unlucky. So in this case, I can understand the need to rush because you just killed them all and you need to get to point and start applying point pressure. But be really careful about this, right? If you leave these guys up here, these guys are extremely dangerous, right? Right. So this is a reason why you tend to burn cooldowns and shield when you don't have to, right? So we talked about this a lot, Aiden and I, about like shield management, right? But right here, using your shield, that's whatever. You're using to fight, so you're getting value off it, so it's fine. And then you decide to drop it here. And if you look, you have no cover in front of you, and this Ashe, if she had good aim, could literally not miss you right now. You're just staring her in the face, right? So first of all, leave that shield up until like you get to cover, right? Right, until you get to like, okay, hang on. Until you get to like this point, right? And then you can drop cover as you go, drop shield as you go around the cover, or drop shield as you go around cover this way, right? Either case, it doesn't really matter. But make sure you're moving towards cover before you drop your shield, and that way, when you drop your shield, you can play the cover, and you don't need to burn your shift, right? Or use your shield again, right? This is why you're always down on cooldowns, right? Is you burn your shift when you absolutely don't have to, right? And so now you don't have your shift. You didn't get shields in the shift either because you canceled for rock. And you're just in a very awkward situation now. Again, if you want to this shield again. When you see that Rein go in like this, the shield should be earlier, right? Just throw the shield over here, block this path, turn around, kill the Rein, right? And then turn around and see if you still need that shield, right? Oh, you just stood on top of the dynamite. What? Again, when you're chasing this guy, right? Unless you think he has shatter, which he doesn't, right? Throw the shield this way, then go back, right? That was a risky time to turn around. He just pinned. That was very risky. Again, right? What is your team doing when you're Sigma ulting? Literally nothing. And this is not their fault, right? You should know that no one's doing anything because you're farther in front than anyone else on your team, and a lot of people died late, right? Yeah. So again, no excuse for this one. You just gotta know that your team's not ready to follow up on this. And like in most cases, you're not solo fragging people with Sigma, right? Even with Sigma ult. It only works when they have no defensive cooldowns, no healing abilities, or everyone else on the team is occupied, and they can only be occupied, right, if your team is doing something. Right? There's no world in which that Torb dies, like ever, right? Oh, she wants it. She wants it. Again, where are you standing, right? You're gonna, in a couple of seconds, you're gonna walk out to here, and you're gonna die to a concave, right? Your whole team is. Maybe not you specifically, but your team is, right? Again, how do you solve that? Staircase over here, right? This is a very important staircase, especially for offense. There's also another staircase over here. You can start moving this direction, right? And push off this Ashe from here, right? It's a bunch of stuff you can do. But you need to be moving towards high ground right now. You can't leave this, you can't leave it like this or your team is going to lose eventually. Alright, so your soldier's trying, right? But your soldier's trying into a shield, right? So if this Ashe just uses the shield and shoots the soldier, your soldier is going to lose control of the high ground, and he's either going to die or be forced out, right? And again, you have a very easy solution. You can just be there with your own shield and your own damage, right? Also, notice how the enemy Rein being here stops your soldier from really using the high ground. Like, where's your soldier now? He's dropping, right? Because he can't contest this, right? This Rein was just shielding the turret even, right? Like, the soldier can't win versus the Rein shield, no, like, unless he spends an ungodly amount of time here. And generally speaking, he's going to get poked out before that happens because he's not getting help, right? And their Rein being here forced our soldier to drop, just like that, right? All right, see this? Why is this happening? He was on high ground. He dropped, right? If you don't contest the high ground, they're going to do this to you all day, and you have zero control over this, right? It's a good rock, but it doesn't matter anymore, right? The damage has already been done. And again, soldiers, your team's being baited into battle. It's not really your fault this time on that one, but again, you can solve a lot of these problems just by positioning better before the fight, right? Wait, how long are we into this? I feel like I'm going over time. We're 28 minutes. Okay, so I'll end it here. So you have the same problems on your right and your Sig. You just kind of prioritize cart too much, right? You prioritize the path the cart is going to take, right? So on defense, you just kind of stood here because you expect the cart to walk into you. But this is not what's important. This is what's important, right? On offense, same deal. This is what's important. You could even go this way if you're fighting low ground, right? And you don't have the ability to go back in a quick fashion because you're like, there's a lot of fighting here, and it's like, okay, the fighting's dying down, then team's backing up. Where should I go to get high ground, right? Again, this path still exists. Take high ground really easily, right? But you cannot ignore high ground, especially when the high ground just happens to be a natural concave, right? You can't let them sit up here for free, or your team will die eventually, right? Yeah. So to summarize, like, just control high ground, or just important parts of the map in general, which are most of the time going to be high grounds, right? Just make an effort to clear it, if not use it, if you're not a character that can use it, right? If you are a character that can use it, you really want to use it just even for yourself, but if you're not a character that can use it, like Reinhardt, you still want to go up there and clear it to make sure the enemy team can't use it, right? Because once the enemy team is using it, retaking it is next to impossible a lot of the time. Or will take a lot of time because you need to route yourself there, because like if you're Rein and you see the hogs there, now you have to walk all the way over here, right, to get up the staircase to push them off, and your team might die during that time, right? Especially if they're not following you. So again, preempt the issue, get up here first, keep the hog off, right? and then you can go to do whatever you want, right? And even if like it's like a little bit late, contesting it is better than never, right? And if like it feels like it's impossible to contest the high ground, like say a Dorado high ground where it's impossible to reach, and like you just realize too late that you're on cart, right? Again, there you can still solve the problem by taking your team and pushing this really hard and pushing one of the sides really hard, the one you can access, right? And then converting that to cart, where like the enemy team will have less angles on you, right? And you have cart control. But overall, just gotta prioritize high ground. I think is like the number one issue. Yeah, any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. And if you get to this part, the video, DM me what 5 times 6 equals.